You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome back to RBLR Lightning. My name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me, it's Matt Gannon and Joe Zamatara. We are back for another episode here on the RBLR Lightning podcast to talk some more Lightning hockey. Guys, welcome back into another episode. Matt, I'll start with you, my friend. How are you doing today?
It could be better after a tough Bucks loss, but I can hang my hat on some good Lightning wins, 3 in a row, or more than 3 in a row now, but 3 since we've last spoken, so I guess all is well.
There you go. I love to hear it. Yeah, the Bucks struggling a little bit there, but the Lightning picking us up. We know we can always count on them. Joe, how about you, my friend? How you doing?
Doing pretty well. Just got off the ice myself, playing some beer league hockey, and while we didn't come away with a win, we did get a point, and makes for a good night.
Hey, point's a point, man. And all that matters if you get into the postseason, right? That's the most important thing there. All right, well, let's jump right into the things and get into it here as we get ready to talk some Lightning hockey. And first, we'll do a little bit of injury news and roster updates. So currently, Sergachev is the big guy that is out right now. He's been out day-to-day. He blocked a shot 2 games ago, and it was at the end of the game, took one off the foot, and then hasn't been back, although he's only listed as day-to-day, so I don't imagine it'll be too much longer before he's able to get back into the swing of things, but that obviously a big loss for the Lightning, as Sergachev has really started to take over that number 1 D spot slowly but surely, and we'll get more into the defense in a little bit here. Nemestikov also did miss 1 game, but he is already back, so he is healthy, good to go. Sergachev is the big news on the injury front, but looking to be back relatively soon. And with that said, we'll go right into our game recaps. We have a lot of wins to talk about this week, which is always super exciting. Makes the show for a good show. And the first game we'll jump into is the one where we took on the Seattle Kraken. And guys, last week's episode we talked about that. Hey, Seattle is a team not to overlook. Normally these expansion teams take a couple of years to get into the swing of things, but Seattle was playing some really good hockey, still are. One of the better teams over there in the Western Conference, but the Lightning took care of business as they take down the Seattle Kraken by a final score of 6-2. He scored 2 goals in the first, 3 goals in the second, then 1 more in the third to finish off that victory, and just about everybody getting in on the scoring sheet in this one. Corey Perry, Braden Point, Ross Colton, Steven Stamkos picking up yet another goal. Even Ian Cole and Eric Chernak, the lower defensemen, picking up some goals as well early in this game, but just a absolute destruction of the Seattle Kraken, if I do say so myself. Lightning dominated this game. Joe, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Lightning taking down the Seattle Kraken by a 6-2 victory?
Well, this ended up being on the scoreboard, utter domination, as you're mentioning. I was fortunate enough to be gifted some tickets by no other person than Matt, and he was called me up last minute and said, "Hey, you want to go to this game?" I said, "Absolutely, any excuse to see our Bolts in person." And just, I mean, you gotta give it up for Yanni Gourde. I mean, always will love the guy, but I'll say, what we actually witnessed may have been one of the best goals that we've ever seen from Braden Point. It was absolutely magical, and we happened to be sitting in the end zone that he scored it on, and all I can say is wow. If you haven't seen it yourself, there's no way that I can describe how fast he entered the zone, beating 2.5 defending players and just absolutely sniping one backhand. It was probably one of the highlights of the season being at a game for me personally.
No doubt, one bit. Best goal I've ever seen in person. It's tough company, but hands down, best goal I've seen in person. But yeah, I brought along Joe to this game. I was, fortunate enough to get some free tickets again last minute, but you never say no to free tickets. All throughout pretty much the first period, yeah, it was utter domination in the first, pretty much until a Ian Cole shot right into his skate led to a fortunate bounce for the Kraken players. It was Jordan Eberle and Jared McCann coming down on a 2-on-1. Not much you could do about that, but pretty much for the rest of the period, yeah, it was pretty dominant for the Lightning up until around the second, where we've been noticing some issues with the Lightning. They kind of got away from it a couple weeks ago. It was more of an issue earlier in the season, and they kind of are reverting to form in these second periods where they're taking a back seat. The opposing teams kind of, for whatever reason, that's where they're kind of finding their mojo, finding their groove, maybe getting some goals in that second period. However, like pretty much the rest of these games, and even including the last week, the Lightning come back and scored 3 goals in the third period. So I guess, one lackadaisical period, it didn't necessarily hinder them too bad in the long run. So I'll take that. But it's funny to me how much of a pattern it's becoming. Weak second periods, strong third periods. I'll take it, but it's kind of weird.
Well, it was 3 that they scored late, kind of later in that second, but it was the Kraken outshot them 38-30 in the game. They really did have a lot of good pressure. Luckily, it seemed that the Lightning, they bent, but they didn't break. A lot of these chances from the Kraken's momentum were coming from the outside. It was a lot of perimeter play, which if you give a clear sight line to Vasi from someone that's shooting from, 40 feet, he's going to make those saves. You can give him 40 shots that are perimeter shots, and none of them are going to go in. And that's what the Lightning did, was really protect the middle of the ice, and they weren't exceptional scoring chances. And then it was that broken Corey Perry play on the power play that kind of opened that game up, where it looked like he was either trying to make a pass or take a shot, bounced right back to him, and then he just buried that thing short side over the shoulder, and the Kraken had nothing to answer back with after that.
That truly was the turning point in the game, because that was a power play goal, and the entire power play, I know it came in the last 15 seconds of that power play, but the first minute 30 of it, it was dismal. We weren't even in the other zone. We couldn't even get out of our zone, and a fortunate bounce for the Lightning just ended up being able to turn the tides for the rest of the game. So pretty crazy sequence. I don't think the 6-2 score necessarily reflects how I don't think the Kraken played bad at all, but they were just woefully unlucky. I mean, me and Joe were pointing out to each other throughout the entire, how many whiffs and misses and just bad bounces were the Kraken getting. But
there's a couple of those right in the slot where the Kraken player just completely whiffed or had there was, I think, at least once where the stick broke on a really prime shot attempt, and it just was the way that the night went for them. That Corey Perry bounce that went their way. It wasn't, but let's see, quick mental math. Just over a minute later, that Braden Point had his magical goal, and it was. So we've talked a lot in the past few episodes about shorthanded goals and what a momentum swing it is when you've got the power play and the other team not only can kill that off, but gives you, puts one up on the board. Here we get a like you said, a dismal power play, but then we ended up converting, and the momentum swing was huge, and that ended up being the kind of the rest of the game kept going from there.
Clearly, I need to talk to my mail people, and because I didn't get my ticket on this invite to the game, I'm not sure. I think I lost in the mail or something like that. No, I'm kidding.
You have AT&T? It was through text, I think.
You guys are absolutely right. The Lightning played really well. I will say this, Matt. You were kind of saying that you didn't think Seattle played bad. I mean, to me, maybe it's just the perspective of watching it from TV and then watching it in person, but it felt like Lightning domination 24/7. I mean, they had their chances. They scored a couple goals, but to me, it just felt like the Lightning had complete control of this game from start to finish for the most part, and just ran with it the whole entire time. It almost felt like they let up in the third because they were beating them so bad. That's what it felt like to me. You guys mentioned Braden Point's goal, which was just unbelievable. Fantastic job by Dave Randorf as well. That call was amazing. Definitely have to go check it out, not only for the goal, but for the call as well. Sorry, the play-by-play guy in me had to mention Dave Randorf, our guy. He did such a great job with that call. And then Yanni Gourde was awesome to watch. Joe, you mentioned him. He was even getting a little feisty, fighting some of the Lightning players, which is always funny to see. I'm sure they were high-fiving and shaking hands after the game. But hey, when you're on the ice, you are my number one enemy if you don't have the same jersey on. But
it's so fun to see him have like that big grin that he always does when he lands a nice hit on somebody, even especially with somebody that he has such a close relationship and a former teammate. He comes up, lands a hit, and you can see from the other side of the ice, you can see him smiling.
You can see his giant smile. Yeah. And I love, too, that Seattle knows Tampa loves Yanni Gourde, because I saw them posting on social media as well. And then all the comments under the Yanni Gourde post are just, hey, if you guys want to leave him here accidentally, we're not going to complain. We'll take good care of him. We'll make sure he doesn't get hurt. So fans love Yanni Gourde. And why would you not? You want nothing but the best for him. But the Lightning take down and get the better of Yanni Gourde's team in this one by a final score of 6-2. And we'll jump to the next game here where the Lightning took on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Brian Elliott was the starter for this one. Vasi getting the night off, and Brian Elliott doing what he does best and playing another fantastic game. The Lightning beat the Columbus Blue Jackets by a final score of 4-1, and this was the story of the third period as the Lightning score 3 goals in the third to really extend their lead and get that 4-1 victory. My favorite part of this game, guys, was the final goal, the empty netter, where Kucherov coming down to the ice just turned. He was, I think, 2 feet from the net, and he just turned around and said, "You know what, Hagel? Here's an early Christmas present. You have it." Hagel is able to walk in and put that one in, which, by the way, guys, I got to keep tooting my own horn here. I said Hagel was a 30-goal scorer. He is well on his way. He's already he surpassed 10 goals now, I believe. So he is cruising right now. Brendan Hagel has been really fitting into this offense very well. He had a great game against Columbus, which you'll love to see that. But another great game from the Lightning. They had struggled a little bit in the second period, I would say. That was kind of the tough period where Columbus came back and scored and tied it. But other than that, Lightning took care of business and really took care of business in the third period again and get the win on this one. Joe, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Columbus game?
But I do want to bring up that empty net goal from Hagel where Kucherov skated in. He literally skated in with nobody near him, and he
Not
could
even
have buried
close.
it. Yeah, he could have buried it by himself with his eyes closed. But I kind of want to mention Alexander Ovechkin, who he's, of course, breaking records, but he's got like 10 empty net goals this season. I kind of feel that Kucherov didn't want to be OV 2.0 and just pad his stats with empty netters, and he looked to get one of his nice assists, and he looked for the next guy that he could dish it off to.
Part of me thought that maybe he was, because Stamkos unfortunately lost his point streak in this game, did not get it. I thought he was maybe turn around just seeing, hey, is Stamkos on the ice maybe so I can get him a goal and he can extend his point streak? I'm not sure what the actual thought process was there.
I like the thought of that. I like the thought of that, but I also trust in Cooch. He knows every single player that's on the ice and every single inch of ice that they're occupying at the time.
I'm pretty sure it caught Hagel off guard even, because I know they asked him after the game and he's like, I guess that's why he's got the letter on his jersey. But it caught everybody off guard. I know the people that are most upset about that was anybody who had Kucherov anytime goal scorer, because that is one bet that they weren't able to get, even though he was right there in front of the net. It was a funny moment though, and the Lightning do get the win. Matt, what about you?
I was kind of cursing him in a just very, very quickly in your sake, Jake, because you have Cooch on fantasy. I was like, he probably could have used that goal, but then I'm like, oh, wait, he's also got Hagel too. So scratch that.
Win.
Works out for you perfectly. No, I mean, yeah, this was a really entertaining game, and it was actually rather close up until the third period. Wow, another reoccurring, put it on third period. But Brian Elliott, don't get me started. He was awesome. He let in the first goal on the first shot and then nothing more. the Lightning, they came out swinging this game. They started on time. They started early. Yeah, I was almost thinking like, man, this might be a Columbus versus Buffalo style of game. Ended up 9-3 or whatever it was. But fortunately, unfortunately, it was not that style of game. Once the Blue Jackets got that first goal from Marchenko, who was extremely noticeable for them. That kid's got some talent. They started to gather things together. The Lightning didn't seem like they were quite running away with the game. They weren't playing bad or lazy or anything. I think this was probably, in my opinion, one of their better games so far throughout since last week or so. It's hard to say any of them were bad games. I'm not going to nitpick any flaws or nothing like that. There's been no shorthanded goals. I'm not going to. I'm a happy camper with all that, but. But Brian Elliott, he was fantastic. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare is starting off the scoring for both teams, finally getting the monkey off of his back. We know we don't expect him to be any kind of prolific goal scorer or anything like that, but once you get the first one, you gain a little bit of confidence, and not everybody's kind of eyeballing him. They got the laser-eyed stare like Joe yelling at Bellemare all the time.
Hey, he netted it. I was very happy for him.
I was cheering for that one. I really was.
Brian Elliott, I think he's won 8 games now in a row. And if I'm not mistaken, he's got it's his longest winning streak of his career. So even at this age, and where nobody expected him to make a big jump, he has. I mean, he's played really, really well. He's been one of the best backups for the Lightning in recent years. I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but Brian Elliott has been fantastic, and it's kind of making a name for himself right now, even
that goal that was scored on him, I'm pretty confident that hit Fleury's stick. It deflected just by a few inches to beat him. And if it wasn't, he had his glove in the right spot. And if it didn't hit that, he very well could have had a shutout this game. He played outstanding. He still had a .96 save percentage for the night.
He's been impressive, and it's been a huge help to the Lightning and Vasilevsky, because they can save him for division games like the one against the Montreal Canadiens, where the Lightning played another good game. It was, or I should say, another kind of a second half effort again, but the Lightning win this one by a final score of 5-1. And it was efforts from some new guys as well. Hagel get back on the board as well. Cirelli picks up his first of the season. So we had a couple of first of the seasons in this week. Brendan Hagel now up to 12 goals in this one. Kucherov does score this time. He does get the goal. He did not give up that one on the freebie. But Lightning win it 5-1. Pretty well played game for the most part. Montreal started to come back. They had their moments. That third period had a lot of different chances for both teams. Kind of went back and forth all over the place, but Vasilevsky stood his ground and played very well for the Lightning. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get the shutout. Just kind of like the Brian Elliott situation. One tough goal that was able to get by him. And that's the one goal for Montreal. But the Lightning come away with a big 2 points in the division. Matt, what are your thoughts on the game against Montreal?
I'm conflicted about this game, because it's one of those games where I'm not sure if the Lightning just didn't play up to their standards, they weren't perfect, or if the Canadiens actually played well. I honestly think the Canadiens definitely played well. They kind of gave us a run. We didn't really start on time, despite getting the first 3-4 goals in the game. But the first goal, it came at 3 minutes in. I wasn't expecting that. The Canadiens, they came out swinging. They came out trying to prove something, and it was a great pass from Ian Cole that sent Hagel in on the breakaway and really quieted that loud building down pretty quick. But I still think that Montreal had the better of us in that first period. Just the score didn't necessarily reflect that. That's just my thoughts on it. But I think once later in that period, and once the second period came around, things started to even out. But I honestly, I want to give Montreal their credit here. They played a really good game. They were tight checking. I think at the end of the day, Jake Allen kind of let them down. I don't think he had his best night. I think some of those goals and chances really shouldn't have been there. I think he left a lot of rebounds and whatnot. Again, I'm not here to nitpick the other team's game or anything like that, but it still was a solid performance. It was still a 4-goal differential. The Lightning's goal differential so far this season has skyrocketed over the last 2 weeks or so, because they're winning these games 4-1, or 5-1, 6-2. The goal differential is skyrocketing. But again, throughout the whole night, it was a pretty solid team effort, despite Montreal really trying to plant their feet and give us a run for our money.
I'm going to maybe state the obvious here, but as soon as Hagel came to the team, he kind of looks a little bit like Braden Point, right? One's right-handed, one's left-handed. They're about the same
They look
height.
alike too.
They look a little bit alike, right? Was that first goal not a Braden Point-esque goal that he scored? I mean, Cole hit him with a beautiful pass to give him the breakaway, and he entered with such speed. There just wasn't a chance for the defenders at all to catch up to him, and he buried it. If it happened on this goal happened on the left side of the ice, and he's left-handed, the way it went down, if it happened on the right side of the ice with Braden Point being right-handed, I swear it could have been a mirror goal. You wouldn't be able to tell the two apart. It was absolutely a great performance by him to get that first one, pretty early in the game, right around 3 minutes. And I mean, the Lightning were putting pucks in the net. I am so happy to see that Cirelli got his first of the season. I mean, he's only played without checking taking time to check the stats. This was his 8th game maybe. And that means that, let's see, I have it written down here. Now only Hayden Fleury and Zach Bogosian don't have goals on the season, and they're defensemen. That means that we're starting to get more balanced scoring, and that's what you need to make a good playoff run is have depth. And we're seeing that. We always knew that Tony was going to be that guy, and his goal on the power play was in typical Cirelli fashion. He did it while diving into the crease. I mean, he got cross-checked, but he still did it while he was parallel to the ice, burying one right in front of the keep. And I'm really excited to see him on the ice scoring and helping other players that were struggling to score start posting up some stats and goals.
You guys said it on this podcast, right? Is it the bottom six was struggling, and that we talked about how Cirelli was going to be potentially the guy to come in there and kind of revitalize that bottom six. And that's kind of exactly what happened. We've seen Maroon recently get his first of the season. Cirelli gets his first of the season. Belmar gets his first of the season. So that bottom six really starting to step up in big ways, and that's helped the team play a more overall balanced game, I would say.
He's such a catalyst. It can't be understated.
And even without all the goals as well, you can just see that there's just a different essence about them. There's an aura, there's a speed to them, there's a killer instinct to this entire bottom six, no matter who you boil it down to, whether it's Colton or Nemesnikov or Maroon as well. Maroon's been a huge standout to me. So, since Cirelli came back, I know they are playing together, but it's just been an injection of life in that bottom six. Take the scoring out of it, I still think that they look good. They're not quite getting hemmed into their own zone like they have been, let's say, in the first half of the season so far. They have just completely flipped the script, while also the top six is still scoring what seems like at will.
And going along the same thread, we still have Balcers that has an injury. We haven't really seen what he can contribute to this team. And with Sergachev out, we still have an 8 defenseman situation because he's been injured. Sometimes the Bolts will run 6 D-man, sometimes 7, and he gets a little bit of extra rest because of it. But our bottom 6, we've got Balcers that can still come back, and who knows what sort of an impact that he can actually make with Cirelli doing such a good job to, let's call him a third liner to, really help out with stimulating some of the other guys. I don't know. There was a lot of concerns a few weeks ago. I'm starting to be more reassured now and truly excited to see what's going to be taking place in the games coming up.
It's still a lot of hockey to go to, a lot of things that can change. And you mentioned it, Joe Balcers, who could come back and he could shake things up too. Who knows even if he gets some playing time. Everybody's playing so well right now. I don't know where exactly he fit in the lineup depending on injuries, but bottom line, Lightning are playing really well. They've had some big wins this week. They get those 2 huge points against Montreal in the division game. And it's been a lot of success for the Lightning over the last couple of games, and hoping that will continue. But with that said, we'll jump into the RBLR Stars of the Week. And I'll start off by saying this for you guys. For those who are listening and tuning in, be sure to follow us on social media at RBLR Sports so you can let us know what you guys think about the 3 stars. Would you have put some other players in there? Would you have moved the order around? We'd love to hear your thoughts from you. But with that said, let's tell you who those top players are. And our Stars of the Week, we'll start off with number 3. The number 3 star, it's going to be Victor Hedman. He finally getting appearance on the 3 Stars of the Week. He kind of had a little bit of a, not, I don't want to say a rough start to the season, but it wasn't his normal self scoring wise, and even maybe defensive wise as well. But he's been playing really well this past week, starting to get back into the swing of things, especially offensively. In his last 3 games, he's had 5 assists for 5 total points. So Victor Hedman making offensive and defensive plays this week and helping the Lightning get all 3 of those wins. Matt, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on Victor Hedman?
If you'd have told me this time last year, it would have taken Victor Hedman, 2 or so months into the season to become a Star of the Week, I'd have told you you're crazy. If you would have told me Mikhail Sergachev has replaced him as the number 1 defenseman, I'd have told you you're crazy. Things haven't, quite shaken out like we've wanted them, like we've expected them to with Victor Hedman. I still think that he was kind of nursing an injury when he missed a couple of games, about a month or so ago now, and has been just trying to work it off or whatever. But these last couple of games, these 3 games specifically, he is kind of reverting back to form. I think he's looked wonderful. He's looked tremendous. And these aren't just, power play points or just, secondary assists. No, he's getting it done at even strength. He's had a couple of great scoring chances. I truly think he's honestly been kind of snake bitten in the goal scoring aspect. I think goalies have kind of stuffed him, especially in that Montreal game as well. He had some pretty key looks at the net, but now the points are finally starting to come back to him. I think he's only got the 1 goal on the season so far, but he is slowly but surely reverting back to form, to being the Victor Hedman we all know and love. I think he's still got it. I will still defend him to the end of time that he's the best defenseman in the NHL. You don't lose it that quick, but he's gaining it back really quickly.
Yeah, and you said he got stuffed. He had 4 shots. That's pretty good for a defenseman in the Montreal game. He's definitely been battling some injuries, or at least what has been seeming like discomfort, especially earlier in the season. And now that he's healed up a little bit, if you remember, he was moved from power play 1 to power play 2. Now with Sergachev injured, he's back on power play 1, and he's starting to look like the Hedman that we know and love. And one of the, I don't know if it's underrated because everybody's seen it. He's won trophies because of it. If he's back checking on you, or you think that you've got a play where you've got him beat, all of a sudden his stick comes out of nowhere, poke checks the puck away, and an opportunity that you thought was there is instantly taken away. He has been using his presence completely differently, I feel, at this point in the season they did in the beginning of the season, where he's just a much more dominant force. And I mean, it's awesome to see him do well. Like you said, hard to believe that he's just now kind of coming onto the radar, but 5 assists in 3 games. He was a +5 for those games as well. It's the reason he's 3rd Star of the Week.
Going into the number 2 spot, it's a guy who has been on this list multiple times. He's a part of the Einstein line, as we call it, and he is the brains of the operation. It's none other than Nikita Kucherov. He's been hot all season long, really, but another great week for him. In his last 3 games, he's got 1 goal and 7 assists for a total of 8 points in 3 games. He's on pace for another 128-point season right now, which would tie his career high. He's absolutely on fire, playing extremely well. He's playing so good, as we mentioned in the one game, he's been gifting goals to other players. That's how good Nikita Kucherov has been so far this season, especially this week. So, Joe, I'll start with you this time. Your thoughts on Kucherov earning the number 2 Star of the Week?
there's not much more that can actually be said about him. He's I don't know. We talk so much about Kuch because he's such a dominant player. He is somebody that completely transforms the team. He looks nonchalant and you get upset with him. Well, I do. I get upset with him at times because he'll make a no-look pass that gets intercepted. But what we don't realize is also all the other things that he's seeing in the game that make him have the confidence to try a pass like that. And then we underappreciate sometimes how good he is at making some key assists. Like you said, he gave away a goal because it was too easy for him, and he could have had 2 goals in this period of time. The other stat to really look at, and this is something that can be critiqued a little bit about Kucherov, is his plus minus. He was, let's see, +2, +3, +1 in all of these games, and he's going against the top lines of the other team. That's, to me, super important as well. Not just piling on the points, but making sure that he's also defending our own end. And he definitely did it this past week in these past 3 games, and he's playing exceptionally well.
There is a bit of a different aura around him this year. I think he is a little bit more defensively responsible. I'm still not going to call him at all a defensive forward. He's not even close to it. He's probably ranked 11th on the team or something in that aspect, but he is still just he's the best passer in the league. You can argue a wall. He's the best passer in the league. There were a couple of times throughout this week so far, pretty much throughout his entire career, but there was one play in particular against Montreal where any other player in the league was not getting the puck just out of the situation he was in. He was going barreling towards the boards and just makes a sweet, slick little backhand pass right next to his skate, between the opposing player's skate, and nobody was ready for it. Nobody on either team was ready for it. He is just so elusive. He is sneaky. He is crafty, and I can't say much more about him, but I truly think that he has been a lot more responsible at every part of the ice this year. There's a reason, like Brandon Hagel said, there's a reason why he wears a letter now. I think he's 100% deserved it. I don't think they've taken it off of him since he got it on. I can't quite remember, but he is extremely deserving of it. He could have ended this week at 2 goals and 6 assists or something. I mean, he's scoring at 2 points per game now. I just cannot find it in myself to find any possible way to critique him. He's perfect.
Oh, man,
are you going to give up Nick Paul as your major crush?
No. Nick Paul's still the best player in the NHL, but Nikita Kucherov is the best passer in the NHL.
Oh, okay, all right.
Would you guys say Kucherov jersey looks better with an A on it? I mean,
adds something to it.
I think it would too. You know what else looks really good when you put it on? It's the RBLR merch that we've got over on rblrshop.com. Make sure you go check it out. We've got some awesome merch for you guys over there as well. Check it out. We got Lightning merch, we got Rays merch, Rowdy's merch, Bucks merch. You name it, we've got it over there. Be sure to go over on that shop. The link should be in the description as well. Wherever you're listening, you can use code BOLTS for 10% off your order as well. Head over there. Try to get Christmas right around the corner too. So go in there and check out those shirts as well, and don't forget you can use code BOLTS for 10% off your order. But with that said,
don't transition yet. I have to tell all of our listeners that Matt and I have no idea when this promo by Jake is going to be thrown in, and he always tries to fool us, and we just sit here and laugh, right? Took the bait. You had no idea where he was going with it. That was beautiful. That was beautiful, man. We're laughing in the background because we never know when they're coming. So when you hear these, just know that man, Jake's doing a good job making us keep trying
to be more like Cooch, man, and get those apples, those setups, man. I'm trying to channel my inner Cooch. With that said, though, let's get into the number 1 star. He's another guy who is on the Einstein line. Matt, I'm sticking with that still. I've loved it ever since you said it. So this guy, though. He's the owner of the bagel shop. It's Brandon Hagel, who has been on fire this week as well. Not as quite as good as Kucherov in the scoring department, but still in his last 3 games, 4 goals, 3 assists for a total of 7 points. Brandon Hagel, ever since coming over for that trade. A lot of people were worried about that trade. They're kind of thinking, it didn't look that good from last season. But this year, he's really taken up to another level. 12 goals on the year right now, clicking on power play one. Brandon Hagel has been a fantastic addition for the Bolts, really stepped up this season. Matt, what are your thoughts on our guy, Brandon Hagel, picking up another number one star?
There's not been one player more noticeable than him in the last couple of weeks or so, but finally he gets the recognition as the first star. He has been electric. Just all the goals, the shorthanded goal against Nashville, that was crazy. I guess we're not including that this week, but just everywhere. He's everywhere on the ice. He is a 200-foot player. Now you've kind of got me sold on it, Joe. He is almost like it's hard to be a mini Braden Point. He's already small enough, but he is almost like a carbon copy of him with almost a little bit more ferociousness and tenacity. He is a heavy forechecker. He leads the league in takeaways, which is a very underrated stat. I didn't believe it until I saw it. Leads the league in takeaways, and he is just still scoring. And these are all great goals. They're clutch goals. The first goal to really quiet down the crowd in Montreal, that was great. He's just got tremendous speed. I can't say enough about him. I know I say that about every player on this list. I guess I haven't said it about Hedman yet, but he is just phenomenal.
And, I'm kind of looking back at our previous player stars of the week, the totals for him. He's already had 3. So he's one of the ones that we've given a star of the week. Yeah, more than
first star,
more than
or
just in general, just general stars. So he's had, reading this, he's had 2 second stars, 1 third star. This would be his first 1 star.
Okay.
But he's been noticeable, and I was one of those guys that when Hagel's not a third line guy, and he was playing a role that didn't really fit what he could do. And I wasn't somebody that realized that. I thought that Hagel just was kind of a bad trade, and I was not sold on him at all. Very disappointed in everything that transpired at the end of last season. And I'm wrong, completely wrong. And I couldn't be happier to be wrong about something, because Hagel has come through as being such a clutch performer. He's, like you said, I didn't realize that he had some of the most takeaways the most takeaways recorded in the league, but you could see the difference in the power play with the way that he was battling to maintain possession and turn over possession of the puck when it would go, but kind of like on the boards, and keep the power play going. It really transformed the power play completely. And I feel like that also might be when he kind of started to come to life. You put a guy in a position where he can thrive, and this guy he's blooming like weeds in my yard. I'll tell you that.
Jake, trust me, it kills me to say this, but you were right. Jake, you were right.
Ooh, he's gonna get it. He's gonna hit it.
I was gonna say we need to go back and look. Maybe Eureka, our producer, can do this for us, but we need to go back to these old episodes and see how many times I was banging on the desk saying Eureka or Hagel needs to go to power play one. I was calling for it, man. I just, I saw it in Chicago. He was so good on power play one with some of those superstars, and he's been doing it again here with Tampa. And I have to give credit to Eric Erlinson as well, which, by the way, if you're not following him on Twitter, is a fantastic follow, writes some amazing stuff. But he wrote an article a while ago talking about how sometimes it just takes guys time to transition and get used to new systems, especially when you're a very young player, which he is. I think he's finally started to hit his groove and hit his stride here, and he's been fantastic, which is why he's been nearly one of the stars every single week.
And we were spoiled with Nick Paul, because he took this trade and ran with it. He kind of
overshadowed it.
He wanted out of Ottawa. He didn't say a trade request, but he pretty much said, "I'm not re-signing here." So he took that opportunity and sprinted away. He just blended seamlessly with the team. And I think Brandon Hagel last year, he was a third liner. He just wasn't necessarily utilized properly. I don't think that's any reason to discredit Cooper or the coaching staff or anything, but I just don't, they knew what they were getting, but I don't think they knew how to use him. where to put him. But now with a vacancy of Palat leaving that first line, leaving the team, but leaving the first line, there was a vacancy there, and they plugged that hole. Brandon Hagel is meshed like butter. I mean, they just didn't properly utilize him. Nick Paul overshadowed him as, being the lesser trade, but looking like the better player. He still is the best player in the NHL, but I mean, they're getting closer, aren't they?
I got to say something real quick about Brandon Hagel. I'm usually a stats guy. I have stats pulled up. I believe that stats give you a broader look of general trends. And I have him pulled up, and NHL.com has Brandon Hagel listed as being 179 pounds at 6'2" tall.
6 foot, 6'2".
Yeah. Well, I mean, ESPN and Elite Prospects have him at 5'10" and 5'11", but yeah, NHL.com has Brandon Hagel listed as 6'2", maybe with skates on as he's on top of a platform.
Yeah, that doesn't sound quite right. But what I do know is even whatever his height may be, he's playing fantastic and is absolutely killing it. But somebody might need to check in on the NHL's department over there, whoever does that, and get that updated. I'm not sure if that one's quite right. Although if he is 6'2", I would be surprised because, we talk about him being kind of a mini Braden Point. They're kind of the same size, I think, too.
He's not 6'2".
He's not 6'2". He's not 6'2". But we've talked a lot about offense here, guys. And actually, one of our stars was Victor Hedman, who is on the defense. And I wanted to bring this up as kind of our topic here is the defense in general for the Lightning. I think the defense has been way better in these last couple of weeks here than it was at the beginning of the season. And even with Sergachev being out for the last 2 games, he's been playing very well, blocking shots. Hedman's playing a lot better. A lot of the defense is getting healthier, and even though a lot of the guys have subbed in and out, Cal Foote has looked pretty good these last couple of weeks. As everybody who's been on the ice for whatever reason, even the guys who have been subbing in and out, I feel like everybody's playing better, and everybody's starting to build that chemistry for this defense. And I think they played a lot better. I mean, heck, in the last 3 games, the Lightning have only given up, what was it? 4 goals against, 2-1-1. So I think the defense has been playing a lot better and is really helping out our goaltenders. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. But for me, the defense looks really good, and that's a great problem to have for the Lightning when you have so many guys you can just rotate in and out, and they're kind of rotating seamlessly, it seems like to me. Joe, I'll start with you on this one. What do you think about the defense?
Going into the season, I was extremely worried. You lose someone like McDonough, and you figure there's no way that you can fill that gap. And it is true. There's no single player that can possibly replace McDonough. And what the Lightning have ended up doing, though, is finding, we'll call Perbix a prospect, someone that was under the radar in order to fill some of the role. You've seen Ian Cole be extremely solid and just stable. I do have to chew on him a little bit for shooting into some shins because that's kind of a cardinal sin in my book, but let's let that one pass. He's been very, very solid. Even, Fleury's been playing well, and there's a good problem right now that, there's 8 solid defensemen. Sergachev is injured, and because there's 7 other people that can be fielded in any game, he can get a little bit of extra rest to heal up whatever his injury may be. I'm not really worried about the back end as much as I was earlier in the season. I mean, this is almost one of those like dream scenarios where how do you possibly have a team that's been to the Stanley Cup 3 years in a row still have enough stability to what appears to be a team that can make another deep run?
Perbix is a huge part of that. I think for sure. That we talk about the one guy that steps up all the time. We just put a video over out on the Bull Report about how Perbix has kind of been the missing piece. He stepped up in such a huge way to fill that Ryan McDonough-sized hole. I mean, no one can fill the McDonough hole, but Perbix has done a fantastic job. He's played really well this week as well. Hasn't really been on the score sheet or anything like that, but he's jumping up on plays and getting good shots.
This season's been kind of filled with surprises. I wouldn't say it's a surprising season, but a lot of players have kind of made me go, really? Like looking at Hagel and Paul, I mean, who expected them to be in the top 3 or 4 on the team in goal scoring? I certainly didn't expect it. I was hoping for it, but especially Nick Paul. I mean, he's at 13 goals or something. But the real surprise to me, a great surprise to me, was how well Ian Cole fits in the lineup. And I get he had kind of a tumultuous start with the team, and things were looking kind of shoddy for a minute. But once the dust settled and the clouds cleared, he is just. I know Joe's going to kind of gripe with this, but I think he's played pretty fantastic. Of course, he's not Victor Hedman or Sergachev or anything like that, but I think he is. It feels like I've seen him in a Bolts uniform a lot longer than I actually have. It seems like he really does belong here. Of course, Perbix, I love him to death, man. He has been nothing short of fantastic since he got called up. But I don't think we give enough props to Ian Cole. I think he does fly under the radar. And just the pairing with him and Chernak is also just such a beautiful discovery as well. I mean, they are a great shutdown pair. Like you guys both said, it is impossible to fill that McDonough-sized hole. But I think this solution right here is almost as good as you're going to get. Of course, you can't get better by losing McDonough, but it's as good as you're going to get losing him.
And speaking as good as you can get, that pass that he had up to Hagel to break him free on the goal that he had, that is not. It requires exceptional vision to make that happen. And I'm going to chew on him a little bit for making an obvious error shooting into a shin pad. Same way that you can say that Sergachev bobbled the puck for a couple of shorthanded goals. But you can definitely forgive a guy for making a mistake when he's doing so much right. That shutdown pairing with Chernak and him, it's working out really well. And there's so much more hockey that we get to look forward to where you don't have to hold your breath worrying about a defensive pair that the guy shouldn't be out there against a top line. All the defensemen that we have, for the most part, you don't want to see Fleury or Foot, even at this point, be stuck out on the top, against the top line for too long. But are you really, holding your breath while they're out there? And I think that's a big test of comfortability with the players that you have, and they're passing that test.
Yeah, we've had some weak links on defense in the past. Like it took me a while to warm up on Jan Ruda. It took me a while to warm up on Eric Chernak as well. But I think towards Jan Ruda's end of his tenure here, I really started to appreciate and like his game. It took him a little while to really mesh and gel in the Lightning system. He was never really a consistent defenseman until pretty much last season. He was always kind of that rotating guy. Now this year is completely different with 8 defensemen to fill 6 spots. But for the first time in what seems like almost forever, even despite all the success and whatnot, I feel very comfortable. It's almost just like the same situation with the backup goaltenders in the last couple of years. Like I've said before, it's like you never really felt super confident if Curtis McElhaney or Louis Domingue was starting a game. But now with like Brian Elliott and that, you're like, oh, he can win. He can win against who's the best team in the league, against Boston. You have a certain level of confidence, and now I kind of do with the defense. I think the combinations are working out great. I think everybody looks great, and not only are they scoring and making great assists and plays in the offensive zone, but I think they are playing great defensively as well.
And this was what, a 6-game homestand?
Yeah.
And there was one loss on it, and the Lightning. I'm going to pull it up just so I don't misquote, but I think it was 32 shots that they had in the third, or 30 shots that they had in the third period in that loss against the Red Wings. 46 shots for the Lightning, 26 for the Red Wings in that loss, and that was a game that, by the numbers, the Lightning completely deserved to win. So when you look at the homestand they just had, allowing only 2 goals and really just kind of being 2 goals and then 2 empty net goals, and then just being kind of out goalied a little bit. Defensively, they've been playing wonderful, especially for this homestand. I think that one's kind of a fluke.
If you look at just the third period, they deserve to win that game. But other than that, it was a rough start. It was a rough start. But you're right. I think we said at the beginning of the month here, we said the homestand, that's a big part of it, right? And they've come out here and won 5 out of the 6 games. I mean, that was huge. Now, I do want to get to this as well, too. They've got some major games coming up this week. A lot of division games, a big game coming against Toronto. So that's going to be really interesting and something to watch. But quickly to wrap up on the other 2 points, Matt, you mentioned Ian Cole has been going kind of under the radar, which you're absolutely right. But I will say RBLR did give him a 3rd star of the week. So, hey, props to us, right? we did say he was a 3rd star. I'm just saying. But then the defense has played really well. It's going to be really interesting to watch, how things shake up when Sergachev comes back as well. And who knows, maybe one of these guys could be something to talk about when trade deadline time comes, because we've got a flurry of good defensemen right now. Let's get back to the.
You said a flurry of good defensemen. Was that a pun?
It was not intended. It was not an intentional pun.
I do want to say
it did work out.
I do want to get one quick thing before we do move on to the road ahead here. But, I mean, this has been a fairly optimistic episode, especially this section right here. I mean, we're just ranting and raving about everybody's playing great, blah, 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 blah. And it will get tougher. We're not going to win, 5 of every 6 games for the rest of the season. It is not going to happen. We're going to go through some losing streaks. We might lose 2 or 3, pray to God, not 4 in a row or anything like that, but it will get rocky. We're not going to win every game 4-1, 5-1, 6-2. We're not going to have these dominant wins. These guys are going to get tired. We know that they're durable. We know that they can take it, but I know you guys know this. If there's anything that this team does, they prove me wrong. They prove all of us wrong, but they're going to tail off, and I just want us to be ready for that. Be aware and not bring the hammer down and start cursing their names and whatnot when it inevitably does happen. But we all know come playoff time, different team. So I just want to get that across.
No, and you're right. You're absolutely right to say that. But they're playing well right now, so I think we absolutely have to sit here and praise them for what good they've done. But speaking of tougher opponents coming up, going to the road ahead here, the Lightning have the Toronto Maple Leafs coming up on Tuesday night at Toronto at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then on a back-to-back, they'll be going to Detroit. That game also again at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then it's the Buffalo Sabres. Again, that game at 7. And then it'll be the Christmas break for the Lightning, and they won't have another game until the 28th against the Montreal Canadiens. But we'll get more into that game when we come back for our next episode as well. But looking at these 3 games coming up here, guys, I circle the Toronto game as the big one. The Lightning just a couple points in the standings behind Toronto. They got a couple games in hand over the Leafs as well. That's a huge game when it comes to division standings. If they can win that one, they get much closer to passing Toronto. Not that all that matters in the end-all be-all, but you always want to be in a more comfortable playoff spot if you can. And then, of course, Detroit and Buffalo, also divisional opponents. And all of these guys, Toronto is second best team in the division. Detroit is above 500, and so is Buffalo. Buffalo's one of the highest scoring teams. So these are good hockey teams that the Lightning are coming up and playing, even if I think Buffalo's record is actually a little bit low, but they're still a really good scoring team. So some tough games coming up for the Lightning. Toronto's the one I'm circling, but Joe, which one are you looking forward to most this week?
I mean, there's without a doubt it's going to be against Toronto. That's a game that went into overtime last time we played them, which was on the 3rd of December. It was that not a fast game? Just the pace was amazing. That was one of the games that we were saying it felt like a playoff game. Definitely going to be looking forward to that. Detroit has been a team that, right now they're not playing. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're 2-6-2 in their last 10. Hopefully that's one of those ones that you just kind of walk away from and get an easy 2 points. But then Buffalo's been one of those weird teams this season. So I'm not sure how that game's going to end up. I mean, I know that Tage Thompson is Matt's favorite player that wears blue and yellow. All right. But he's been hot. He has been red hot. And if they can isolate him, I think that's another good chance for a win. But I think that one might be one of those games that surprise you. It's on, it's an away game. It's on the 23rd. I'm hoping the Lightning don't get a case of, hey, I want to get home for Christmas and just kind of pack this one in. So if our betting man, I hope we get 4 points out of the rest of this road trip here for the next 3 games.
Disregard my last spiel about, hey guys, it's all sunshine and rainbows, but we gotta, stick, tough through the losses and keep our heads high. I want my vengeance against Detroit. That game really made me upset. I get it. I'm a sore loser, but I want my vengeance against Detroit. That's the one I'm really looking forward to. But of course, the most important one out of them will be the Toronto game as of right now, and up until this game. This is both teams' next game. If we win, we're within 3 points of them in the standings right now. If we win in regulation, we'll be within 1 point. We'll be neck and neck with them. It is a battle of punching up. It'll still be a bit of an uphill climb. But I mean, the more points you can crunch in the standings, the closer you can get to the top, the better. Of course, right now it's still a little too early to worry about playoff seeding or anything like that, but you do want to build a little bit of a cushion. And same thing against Buffalo and Detroit as well. Those are the 3 closest teams. I mean, it's pretty much a big sandwich in terms of the standings when looking at these games right now. So the Lightning, despite them playing some great hockey right now, they're going to need to keep it up for at least these next 3 games if they really want to start. You can't really run away with a top heavy division like the Atlantic, but to create that bit of a cushion. So all 3 of these games are going to be very important to us, but again, I just want my vengeance.
That makes a lot of sense. I do want to bring up one quick thing, though, is when you look at the standings, it has been fairly typical that if you look at the goal differential, the teams that are, say, plus 10 at the end of the year are all playoff teams. If you're even or lower, you're not going to make the playoffs. There's a little bit of actually, it's a pretty major anomaly right here. Detroit's in 5th in the division with a -9. And 6th of the division is Buffalo with a +17. I can't explain that at all, except for, I mean, obviously they've had some blowouts. They've been such a streaky team.
Yeah, well, it goes back to like Tage Thompson, who scored 5 goals in that one game and tied Dave Andrechuk's record for most goals in a single game. Shout out to Dave Andrechuk there. But they've been, even though their record's down there, they've played good hockey and can score a lot of goals when they need to. And same thing can be said for Detroit, sitting right at 500. So 3 big games coming up for the Lightning. Hopefully they can finish strong and then get into the Christmas break and have a little bit of time off. So it'll be a fun one to watch. And, of course, we're going to have all the updates here for you guys. We appreciate you guys sticking around and listening. If you are still here, if you could do us a big favor, hit that subscribe button. Give us that 5-star rating, whatever you're listening on whatever platform. We really appreciate it. It really helps us out. Don't forget to follow us on social media at RBLR Sports, so you don't miss out on all the other podcasts, game score updates as well. The guys over there on the Bucks, Rowdies and Rays podcast, they do a fantastic job, so make sure you go check them out as well. Thank you guys so much for listening, though, and we will talk to you next week. Go Bolts!
Merry Christmas!
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.